Hello, everyone. I want to talk today about 4 or 5 legal doctrines that are really important based on the COVID-19 scenario that we're facing. And we're getting a lot of questions, and there is a lot of speculation in the marketplace on what happens for our contract obligations and can we get out of them? Are we fully obligated? Are you not fully obligated based on COVID and the lockdowns? So I'm going to give you 5 legal principles that are going to affect your case. And the first one is contract law, and then the next 4 are equitable doctrines under common law court decisions. And then the 5th one is one more contract provision. So I'll maybe put those 2 together since they go together, the first 2, the first and the last one. And I'm just going to raise these to educate you as to possible defenses and possible claims. There's no real answer right now because, of course, we have no idea what is happening next. We don't have any real strong guidance because we've never had any court cases deal with a worldwide pandemic. We just haven't had it. So we're not sure how the courts are going to react. And we don't really know how to apply these legal ideas in different states, different counties, and different cities. Because as all of you are aware, every county, every city, every state is being affected differently. And the virus has been particularly onerous in some places, others not so much. Other states never had any lockdowns. Other states had varying degrees of things that were required by the governors and the town councils and the mayors. And the idea of whether those pronouncements are even legal or not remains to be seen. We're starting to see a smattering of cases coming down of orders that may have gone too far and that kind of a thing, but that's not the purpose of this video. So we're going to cover 5 principles, 2 of them found in your contract, so those are legal matters, and then 3 of them are doctrines of common law. The first 2 are found in your contract. The first one we're going to call force majeure. That's French for an irresistible force. Many contracts include a provision that basically says if something happens in nature, like an earthquake or a flood, that makes the contract impossible to perform, then that's a defense to performance. So these a lot of times are in contracts for construction or in contracts related to insurance policies, force majeure. They're not in every contract though. And I would point out that there is no standard language for a force majeure provision. So when a court interprets it going forward, if you happen to have force majeure in your lease or in one of your contracts with a construction company, something like that, you need to read the language because they're all over the board. And I just finished a continuing legal ed on this, and I was stunned at how broadly or how narrowly force majeure was written into some of the biggest contracts in the country, national contracts for different things with millions of dollars at stake. And it's the same legal principle regardless of the amount of money involved or how big your leased premises are. And some things just say, force majeure. Some things are a little bit more explicit, like a natural consequence of a weather-related event. Some have terrorism clauses in there. For instance, after 9/11, when we had terrorist attacks in America based on the Twin Towers, you had that scenario. So that's very different as well. So there started to be more specific definitions. And then there's even some biological terms and some epidemic terms that occasionally come up. So in that CLE, continuing legal ed, there was a very wide variety of force majeure clauses discussed, Bottom line, what does your document say is going to be what controls the court, depending on balancing with some of these other provisions. So that's the first one, force majeure. The second one is that many leases and many contracts have written into them something like this: obey all the state and local laws, right? So you might think of a lease for an apartment that says you can't do anything illegal in your apartment or in your home, and you have to obey any pronouncements by the government. For instance, with health and safety, which epidemics and pandemics are health and safety, you might have the cut the grass idea, right? Health and hospital provisions that say cut the grass, clean the gutters out, do all these things that are supposed to stop or to promote cleanliness. And then now we're on a totally another level with government lockdowns and government pronouncements of all different agencies telling us what to do. None of them are consistent. And so that set of provisions in your contract or in your lease may come into play. So number one, force majeure. Number two, obey the law clauses in your contracts. And all of it depends on what your contract provision says. Is there a right or wrong answer? I don't, impossible to say right now. So look at your contracts, see what they say on those two provisions. The next three are what we call equitable doctrines that come out of case law. Equity means fairness. And so these are, I'm going to say that they're stair-stepping from severity of, a little bit, a lot, more and more in terms of what they require. And again, these are imposed on your contract, even if you don't have anything in writing. So the court can look at your contract, here it is, and say, under this doctrine, I'm either going to enforce this contract or I'm not going to enforce the contract if I'm the judge. And here's the first one: frustration of purpose. So you might have heard this. So this is just the idea that something's happened that allows the party, or the frustrated party, not even both sides, but allows the frustrated party to rescind the contract, go backwards, and not have to pay any damages. So something has happened that makes it difficult to perform. It's a frustration of your purpose, and now we can no longer perform this contract. We cannot enforce it because of that frustration of purpose. That's sort of the first hurdle to go through, that frustration of purpose. The next one is this doctrine called impracticability. Impracticability. And this is a contract law provision that would say performance, I'm just going to read a legal definition: performance has been rendered excessively difficult, expensive, or harmful by an unforeseen contingency. So something happened that we didn't foresee, so we couldn't write it into the contract. Therefore, it's impractical to perform this contract anymore. We're going to rescind it and go back to square one. No damages. So I'm not sure if that's going to apply or not. And again, the case law is going to be case by case, fact pattern by fact pattern. Everybody's is different. So the first two. Then the next one is sort of this highest bar that says impossibility. So the doctrine of impossibility, a party can be released from their contract for failing to perform because it's impossible by uncontrolled circumstances. And the one they cite is death, right? So that's the most simple thing. You can't perform a contract if you've died, right? So that would be impossibility of performance as a legal doctrine. We don't know what's going to come in here, but I wanted to give you these 5 definitions so at least you have something to go from and you can start to think about your scenario. We'd be happy to try to walk you through your fact pattern or litigate a case if it was necessary. So feel free to give us a call. Of course, the Bar Association, Indiana State Bar, submitted guidelines last week that said we want everybody to work from home. It's possible. You can see I'm at the office. I'm not working at home, even though we have done some work remote. We've sent everybody else home. So I'm the only person here in the office in our suites. Everybody else is working from home remotely. including, administrative staff and that kind of a thing. So we're just going to see how this thing plays out, and it's going to be very interesting. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to Facebook me or email me any questions, and we'll try to answer those going forward. Have a great day.